Hello and welcome back to CEO.CA's Inside the Boardroom. Today we are joined again by Rackla Metals. This time we have Scott Casselman, VP of Exploration, joining us. Scott, how are you doing today?
Very good. Thanks for having me on, James.
Fantastic. Always excited to hear from Rackla. We heard from Simon just a couple of weeks ago, and there have been some updates in that time period. But maybe for viewers who aren't familiar with Rackla Metals, can we start with just a quick overview? What are the key facts people need to know? What's the elevator pitch?
Yeah, Rackla is a Vancouver-based junior exploration company. We're focused on gold exploration, and we're looking in the Tintina Gold Belt of Yukon and Northwest Territories. Our focus is primarily on the eastern side of that belt, and we've got 8 properties, 3 that we acquired by option, and we've exercised those options last year, and the other 5 that we staked and own 100% ourselves.
Fantastic. And I understand you've just wrapped up your 2024 exploration program. Can you walk us through what some of the highlights were there?
Yeah, so we started out by drilling on 2 of our properties at the northern end of our target area. And while that was going on, the area south of there is an area that we've been doing some research on over the past couple of years and identified some very interesting targets. The area with the interesting targets was tied up in land use planning. It's part of the Sawtooth Dene First Nation traditional territory. And it became open in late June this year. Our research had showed that there was really good potential there for a type of deposit that we're looking for, reduced intrusion related gold systems, which are they're known to occur throughout the Tintina Gold Belt. So we quickly, as soon as that ground opened up, we quickly got out there and did some prospecting, and our crews really liked what they were seeing there. The criteria that we look at for reduced intrusion gold system is gold, obviously, the association of bismuth and tellurium, Cretaceous intrusions, good magnetic signature. All of those features we saw in the new area. So we staked 2 packages of claims, one called the Grad and the other called the Ogre. And those names come from the main intrusion located nearby, which is called the O'Grady. So we staked those claims, went about prospecting on them, came up with some really good numbers in the first few samples that we were collecting there. We rushed those samples to the lab, and the lab returned results of 92 grams per ton in one sample and 15 grams per ton in the other. So 92 is equivalent to about 3 ounces to the ton, and 15 is about a half an ounce to the ton. So we knew based on that first time we've ever been on the ground there that we were really onto something special.
Great. And to clarify, those samples were grab samples?
Those were grabs, yes.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I want to maybe take a little step back here and talk about the region more broadly. You know, there have been some big success stories in the Tombstone Gold Belt. When you're looking for this reduced intrusion-related gold system, the rigs, can you tell us what are some of those key characteristics you're looking for, and why have you focused in on that particular type of mineralization?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Tintina Gold Belt stretches from Alaska through Yukon and into Western Northwest Territories, and it's basically defined by a series of Cretaceous age felsic intrusions. So these are granitic bodies that are coming up through the Selwyn Basin, which is the geological terrain that the Tintina Gold Belt occurs within. And those Cretaceous intrusions are known to host gold right across the whole breadth of the Yukon and Alaska. Some very significant deposits in that. They're multi-ounce gold deposits, sometimes over 10 million ounces. Those being the Eagle gold mine in the Yukon and the Fort Knox mine in Alaska are 2 of the more prominent ones. But what particularly interested us and got us excited about getting into the belt was some very rapidly developing new discoveries, particularly on the Yukon side. Within a very short order, Banyan Gold is one of the companies that's been working their Ormac project, very close to Victoria Gold's Eagle gold mine. And they rapidly developed a 7 million ounce resource there. Snowline Gold is one of the more recent players to come into the belt. And in a period of about 3 to 4 years, they went from having nothing to another 7 million ounce deposit. And it was particularly Snowline's discovery that prompted Simon, our CEO, to say, we got to get involved there. Both Simon and myself have a long history of working in the Yukon. We're familiar with the geology. And that prompted us to rapidly acquire the properties that we have. And it's those relatively new discoveries that were able to develop multi-million ounce deposits within a very short period of time that led us to believe that there really is tremendous untapped potential here, very underexplored.
Great. Thank you so much for that overview of the region, and certainly an exciting place to be exploring. I want to talk a little bit about some of the results that you've seen so far. You've seen a talus finds anomaly at the BiTe showing. Tell us a bit more about that. What's the significance of having boots on the ground? And maybe are there any other targets at Grad that you're looking to explore further?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we only acquired the claims at Grad in early July of this year, so we haven't had a lot of time on the ground. But with the time that we've had and the sampling that we've done stream sediment, rock, and talus fine sampling. Every one of those is been giving us good results and pointing us to need to do further results. The talus fine anomaly that we identified, it's at the BiTe showing, and it measures 550 meters across. The gold in those samples, there are many samples that are greater than a gram per ton gold, and this is basically sediment. So getting that kind of a number is pretty spectacular. And we got one sample that was over 7 grams to the ton. Along with that, the chemical association that you expect from a reduced intrusion type deposit will give you high bismuth and high tellurium values. We're seeing that as well in the talus fines and in all of our rock sampling. So all of the criteria that we use to evaluate whether we have a good reduced intrusion type target are turning up, particularly at BiTe. Now, the property as a whole, because we were seeing such fantastic mineralization at BiTe, the showing area measures roughly 500 by 500 meters. It's drawn more of our attention than the rest of the area. We have done a few traverses elsewhere, but having only basically spent half of a summer working, there's still lots of area yet to go and evaluate next year.
Fantastic. And in terms of the work next year, what work needs to be done to get these targets drill ready?
We're pretty close. The numbers we're getting at BiTe are so spectacular that I would almost feel confident to pop a drill hole in now. But it would be more efficient to get a bit more trenching done. I should also mention that later in the summer we did put a 40-meter chip channel sample across an outcrop there, and it returned 38 meters of 1.7 grams per ton. So that to me is virtually drill ready. But the way we're going to plan it next year is we'll do a bit more of that chip channel sampling. We'll try to define the zone a little better so that when we do get the drill out there, of course, drilling is much more expensive than any other survey that we've done. We can be very efficient with it. So I would expect, we're talking plans now for our next year's program and working on permitting. I would expect that we'll start the season next year with more prospecting, try to evaluate a larger part of the property as well. At the same time, we'll be expanding on that channel sampling that we did, working, extend that trench further, and parallel to that to define an aerial, the aerial size of the anomaly. And by late July or August, we'll have a number of drill targets ready to test.
Great. Well, certainly looking forward to more of those updates next summer. I guess just to wrap up here, can you tell us, what excites you about this new prospect that Rackla is exploring?
So we've been exploring in the Tombstone Gold Belt, focused on this type of deposit for 2 years now. We've got, as I mentioned, we have 8 properties. All of them have the criteria that we would like to see for a reduced intrusion type target. None of them have what we're seeing at Grad. The bismuth and tellurium ratios to gold are off the scale compared to any of the other properties. The gold values are also quite significantly higher. From the few samples that we've collected so far, we're much more impressed with just the absolute amount of gold that is there, and all of the other signatures that we look for. The magnetic signature, the geology is correct, and things like that are really exciting. And we had been researching this area for a couple of years, as I mentioned. So when it finally came open and we got out there and it met everything that we had hoped it would, it just excites all of our geologists, and we're anxious to get out there and continue on with it.
Well, Scott, congratulations on acquiring and beginning the exploration on the Grad property. Looking forward to more updates. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, James.